What's going on, guys? Welcome back to this video. Today we're doing TryHackMe video, and we're going to pick up where we left last time in the secure engineer track. Specifically, we're doing network device hardening. So in this room there are two practical tasks which make up most of the room. The first one is about hardening virtual private networks, securing VPNs, and the other task is hardening routers, switches, and firewalls. Namely, we actually talk about hardening routers. So let's get started. Well, the first thing is to open the virtual machine, and I'm using the machine attached to this task. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the VPN security, or hardening VPN virtual private networks. While this is a very broad subject, right, hardening VPNs, but the thing is, we're going to take a small example where we demonstrate how to implement security best practices on OpenVPN servers. So as you know, guys, VPNs have both client side and server side, and most of you mainly use VPN to just securing your access to the internet and connecting to censored websites and other material that you may not be able to access using your ISP settings. But more importantly, VPNs are used to protect the privacy and security of the person who is using it. We all trust the VPN we are using to some degree, but there is more important aspect than the VPN itself, which is the VPN server. I mean, it's the server or the back side, right? It's there where the configuration lies. So that's what we were talking about here. Securing the configurations on the server side, not on the client side. So the example is on OpenVPN server. So VPN server or OpenVPN server configurations are stored under etc OpenVPN. All right, so we have here the server and the client. So we want to take a look at the configurations or the secure configurations from the server side. So we go to server and we highlight the file server.conf, nano server.conf. Let's take a look at key directives here in this file. The first key directive is the see where it is. It is the cipher. So using the cipher directive, we decide or we configure the encryption algorithm. It's very important to choose a very secure cipher. A secure cipher is, or an example of a secure cipher is AES 256 CBC. AES, I don't know what to tell you what it is, right? You know, it's an encryption algorithm, and 256 indicates the length of the key or the length of the encryption key, and CBC is the cipher block chaining. Now you may configure the encryption algorithm using this directive. You may also change the encryption algorithm altogether. It's recommended to use always AES. That's the first thing here. The other thing is the directive auth. So auth here controls the hashing algorithm used during the authentication process. So when a client or when you connect to a VPN server, you are actually authenticating using your account credentials. During the process, there is a hashing process occurs. So you want to use strong hashing algorithm. Okay, so SHA is a good choice. Scrolling down, we have the TLS crypt directive. The TLS crypt directive chooses the or enables the Perfect Forward Secrecy, PFS, Perfect Forward Secrecy, where the session keys are randomized. So for every session, or for every session, right, when you connect to the VPN server, there is a session key created, right? Now this session key can either be randomized or be the same all the time. You want the session key to be randomized because if an attacker was eavesdropping on the communication between you and the VPN server, if they are able to get a hold of one key, they will be able to decrypt all of the packets. So if the session key is randomized, you minimize the chances of this happening. Additionally, here we see other things such as the port configured for the VPN server, the local IP address, the protocol, the server certificate. All these configurations are done on the server.conf file. Okay. Now you know what are the most important configuration items in this file. I'm going to repeat them: the authentication, the TLS script, and lastly the cipher. Now you might be asking me, what is this? So this is the key. Basically, we can generate a key using this command: sudo openvpn --gen key --secret root test key, maybe not key. Now if you go to root, yeah, exactly, because I'm Ubuntu here. Let's see if I use sudo. As you can see, the key is created here. Now you can take this and use it, and it will be randomized if you enable TLS-crypt. All right, now these are the basic things you want to pay attention to when you are configuring a VPN server such as OpenVPN. Now let's talk about router security. So router security is also a very broad subject. Okay, but we're gonna talk about the very basics that will get you up and running for advanced tasks. And router security techniques are usually the same among different vendors: Cisco, ASUS, TP-Link. They're all the same. So we're gonna access the router for this task. Using this address. Where is it? Okay. I'm going to log in using root. All right. Router security. What is the first thing to do here when we configure a router? Say you have purchased a router and you want now to configure it. Hopefully after this loads up. Yeah, finally. So for this demonstration, we are using OpenWRT router. Okay. Now, the first thing to do is to configure the general settings. We go to System, click on System, and here we load up the general configuration, such as the time, the host name, the zone, the logging. All of these configurations are important to be set up correctly, because in the case of an incident or a cyber attack, you want the time to be correctly aligned with your time zone. So here the time zone is set as is. We're not going to change these settings because they don't belong to us. We can also sync this with an NTP server. Here we choose the host name and the time zone. Make sure these are correctly set, okay, in your router. Logging, you want to log all of the packets. If you don't have enough space, you can forward the logs to a central logging server, okay, a different machine where it hosts a program called syslog, or a program that uses syslog to forward logs, and you can store them there. Otherwise, you can store them locally by specifying a directory here and leave the basic level of logging to debug. Time sync, we talked about timing and how important it is in the case of an incident. Alright, the next thing is to change the default credentials. You don't want to leave your username and password as admin or admin password. You want to change them here. Additionally, if you want to manage the router, you want to get access to the router and change configurations, you want to do that over a secure channel. So we can either do that over HTTPS, okay, or preferably we do that over SSH, because it allows you to perform granular, to have granular control over the router. Here we specify the port and interface over which we're gonna access the router, and we're gonna save and apply. Also here, if you have SSH keys, you generate a key in your command line here. So if you go ahead and we type SSH key gen, let's see. So ls-la cd.sh. So now we have, as you can see guys, private key and public key. We can add the key here, okay, the public key of course. Make sure to add the public key. Where this has gone, come on, don't be absurd. Okay, so this is the public key, cat ID. We're gonna take a look. We're gonna take this, copy that, and paste it here, and then the next time we will be able to log in with our private key. Okay, next we go to software. Now here in software, we take a look at the packages installed in the router. We can update and install package from here. I don't know if it exists on other firmwares, but generally it might be there. So startup. In startup, we take a look at the scripts that are configured at the start of when the router boots up. So basically here, make sure the list here is the native list that comes predefined with the firmware, because if an attacker was able to get access to the router, okay, they will install a script here for persistence. So make sure you audit these from time to time. Okay, what are other things we can do here? If you go to traffic, we can inspect, or we can click on the firewall, and here in the firewall, basically we can control the traffic flow in and out of the network. Generally, in a local network where there are no servers configured to be accessed from the internet, it's recommended to disable the direction of the traffic that's coming from the internet, for example. So as you can see here, we have this direction, LAN to WAN is allowed because we want the endpoints to access the internet. So we allow the direction from LAN to WAN, and this is bidirectional, meaning when you send a request to a website, the response from the website will also be accepted by this rule. So you don't need to configure one-to-one. Now one-to-one is by default rejected. WAN to LAN, is rejected by default in regular networks where there are no servers hosted. If you have a web server or a public server, such as maybe a game server, okay, you want to configure this to allow WAN to LAN. Okay, so you can edit WAN, and here input, gonna accept, and allowed, as you can see here, WAN, allow forward destination, allow forward from source. Can select here as LAN as well, and we can click on save. So it's allowed now. I'm gonna delete this. Reject, reject, reject. Okay. The next basic thing is port forwards. So again, if you don't have a public server running in your network, there is no need to configure WAN to LAN. Additionally, there is no need to configure port forwarding. But again, if you have a public server, such as a game server, in addition to allowing WAN to LAN, you want to configure port forwarding. An example is this rule, thm_port. Click on edit. As you can see here, let's say there is a game server running on port 9002 on one of your machines, and the game server uses 9001 port to receive traffic from the main server. So you want to configure a rule here, port forward rule, so that all traffic coming from the WAN or the internet on port 9001 to be accepted or forwarded, as you can see, to the local network, to any device on port 9002. If you have only one specific device, or you want to accept the traffic only to one specific device, you change or specify its IP address. Okay. Traffic rules. In traffic rules, we control the flow of the traffic, like in details, such as controlling the protocol and the ports allowed. Waiting for this to load. Finally. Okay. Let's take an example. So we have this rule name allow ping, and these are the configurations, and the action is to accept, and it's enabled. Let's take a look. Edit. The name is allow ping, the protocol is ICMP, and that's the direction. As you can see, we are accepting ICMP or packets, okay, from the internet, one to basically here anything, any address. Destination zone is a device. Now device here, it's just an interface on the network. It could be LAN, it could be anything else. Here you specify the destination. Okay. Now an example would be if we want to allow back to the game server example. If the game server uses ping as part of the functionality, we want to allow ping here. So you're gonna say allow ping ICMP from the internet to the interface. If the network lies on LAN, or if the device is on the LAN interface, you can specify LAN. Mostly it's LAN. And the action is to accept. It's basic stateful firewall. Okay, stateful firewall is a firewall that tracks the or controls the packet direction based on the source and destination IP and port. Additionally, it tracks the status of the packet, whether it's established or in sync, or it is listening. It could be also stateless. Okay, and the same logic follows here for the other rules. One last important thing is the firmware. You want always to make sure that the firmware of your router is up to date. Okay, you can some vendors offer a button to perform the update. Some vendors do not offer that, such as this. You have to upload the firmware file from here. So basically you go download this from the website of the router you're using, and then you're going to upload it here. Alright, now questions. Let's see. Update the config file to use cipher. Now these questions of the VPN server, if you remember, there were flags when we were configuring the file here. I hope you guys are still remembering, but I'm gonna tell you one more time. So all the flags can be found by opening the file cat etc open VPN server. That's the first flag, and that's other flag. As per the config file, what's the port number of the VPN server? It is 1194. We have covered these earlier in the video. Task 5. Again, if you have been following me correctly, you'll be able to answer these questions without getting back in time in the video. So, what's the default port configured for OpenWRT? It's 22 for SSH. Go through the general settings. There was a flag when we configured the timing. Also, when we went over the logging configuration, there was buffer size to be 64, and what is the priority of the script. We also covered the startup scripts. What's the name of the rule that accepts ICMP traffic from source zone 1 and destination zone as this device? Again, we go to traffic rules. What's the name of the rule that forwards data from coming from 9001 to LAN 9002? Yeah, this is painful to go over this one more time, but it's okay because it's not that fast and quick and makes me frustrated. Alright, so to answer this question, so it forwards data. So basically we can find the answer for this here. Again, we're gonna have to wait. Oh my god, this is really painful, guys. Finally, so THM_port, it's the name of the rule. And what's the name of the rule that accepts ICMP traffic from source zone 1? Here we can check the traffic rules. What's the version number available for the available APK package? We will find this under the software installed. Yeah, this one I haven't covered. I'm gonna go through this. Come on, man. Finally, thank you very much for loading up. So allow ping, it is the name of the rule. As you can see, it allows ICMP traffic from 1 to the interface this device. Okay. Now, and lastly, what's the version number for the available APK package? So since it talks about packages, we're going to have to go to software and list all the available packages. We go to available and we use APK here, and we have the APK package manager. It's 2.12.2-1, and we mark this as finished, no other tasks to be answered. The rest are really straightforward. So that was it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'm gonna see you later.